what we really wanted to do with this movie is to tell a story of a human being with nuance and with flaws, someone who's three-dimensional and relatable. I think that was the most important thing, that we wanted kids to see themselves in, and to really believe that they could be this person.
So, being the first Asian superhero Marvel character, what do you think it means to both the Asian community, especially Asian kids that would be grow up watching you, and also to the show business in general, which still is currently struggling with representation issues?
Right. That's a great question. I think for kids, I think it's especially for Asian kids that are growing up in parts of the world where they're not represented. I think it's extremely powerful to see themselves as as a superhero. I mean, that's incredible. I think heroes represent this idea of hope and kind of possibility. If you can see yourself as a superhero, then you can be anything and you can be anyone. And I feel like there's such power in that. It's certainly something that I didn't have growing up. I grew up in Canada, and we basically got the same stuff as they aired in the States. It was very similar. So I think that's very powerful, and I think the value to show business, especially because of the financial success of the movie, is that it continues to tell this narrative that diversity is good business, it's profitable, and it's the right thing to do. When you tell stories that are unique, that are authentic, you tell stories that are worth watching, quite frankly. And so I absolutely think that this is a watershed moment, but I think it'll open the door for many moments like it. And I also just want to say, I think it's important too for Asian kids to realize you don't have to be the tallest, the best looking, the best at martial arts to be a hero or to be somebody who is, I am none of those things. I am none of those things. I don't consider myself to be particularly good looking or particularly, I think with martial arts, I think I got there in the end. But what we really wanted to do with this movie is to tell a story of a human being with nuance and with flaws, someone who's three-dimensional and relatable. I think that was the most important thing, that we wanted kids to see themselves in, and to really believe that they could be this person. Because Sean is everyone. Sean is all of us who grew up in between two different cultures and was constantly trying to fit in one way or the other, but maybe feels totally at home in neither. That's kind of the experience of what it means to grow up in an immigrant family or an immigrant household, is just kind of constantly feeling off balance. And I'm just really excited that we get to tell that story.
Just building up on that question, do you see yourself kind of like, because you would be expected to be the Asian superhero, do you feel like it's burdensome at times that maybe whenever in the future Asian representation issues come up, you would expect to be an advocate for it? Does it feel burdensome sometimes? Do you have to carry yourself in a certain way from now on?
Well, I just want to say, as you mentioned, I was on a show before this movie called Kim's Convenience, where I played a Korean son in an immigrant family in Canada, and so we were getting representation questions back then too, because we were the first, Asian sitcom in Canada, and is it a burden? I don't want to call it a burden, because if it weren't for these two projects, I wouldn't have a career, and so I know that my career is directly tied with these conversations of diversity, with these conversations of representation, and somebody else's career might take off because of these conversations as well. You never know who will read a certain article or who will watch something and it'll all of a sudden click for them, and then that will result in either a young Asian creative or artist making a decision to pursue a career in the arts, or somebody in the decision-making world who says, yes, you're right, diversity is important. I'm going to extend an opportunity where I didn't before. So I just try to think of that as much as I can, because it is really happening, and the progress is slow, but it's absolutely happening. And so we just want to, I just want to continue to do that and to be a part of that movement. I think I'm really looking forward to continuing to be busy and continuing to use my platform to, talk about issues like representation and to, especially I think with the way that the world is right now, there's a lot of narratives that are trying to pull us apart, especially I think as Chinese people living in America. There's just, I just feel like there's just a general sense of unease. And I go back to the spirit of this movie, which is to build bridges and to build empathy between people and to show that we're really not all that different from each other. So I hope that in some way I can continue to do that with my career as well.
Also, just want to ask about family, because growing up in an Asian family, maybe parents always expect us to be successful if we're a doctor or a lawyer. But since you've got this role, it's a major role, do you think your relationship with your parents changed? And do you talk about your job with them? How are they talking?
My relationship with my parents changed a little bit before, where we finally, leading up to, I think, me making the decision to become an actor, I think they didn't understand. They didn't understand because when they came to this country with nothing, they were living off of scholarship money. They were the Liuxuesheng. All of their decisions were made around achieving some sort of stability because that was the most important thing. Was how can I get into a position where I can put food on the table, I can give my family stability, right? And then, for their next generation, for them to be like, I don't want stability. I want to find my life's purpose. I want to express myself. I think that took a very long time for my parents to wrap their head around. But they did, because we all grow and I think the more I did it, the more I was able to show them how serious I was and how passionate I was. And so they kind of eventually came to believe in me as well, and they came to realize that their journey from China to Canada is not so dissimilar from my journey from accounting or finance into acting. It's just kind of a total change of pace, and they've been immensely supportive. I keep trying to convince my mother to retire because I keep telling her she doesn't have to work anymore, but she's very stubborn. It's very difficult for our parents to give up that power because they've been conditioned their whole lives to take care of me. I'm the only child. I'm their baby boy. And I want so badly to take care of them and to thank them for everything that they've done for me. But it's hard because they don't want your help. And so that's where our relationship is at right now. It's very nice, it's very loving, but it's, for me, very frustrating because I want my parents to go on vacation. I want them to be happy and to, all of that stuff.